Clinical Trials. So as you can see, we're here with another podcast episode with another community business leader. I'm Dan. I'm from Yuma Clinical Trials, and we do all different kinds of studies. You get paid for participating. We're here in Yuma. We partnered with 5 doctors around town. We have studies for weight loss, for depression, for bipolar, for COPD, for migraines. We just got a new migraines
That's really
one
cool.
with Botox.
Wow.
So there's a lot
I've
we
had
have
a little
going
exposure with that. That's a good one, though.
Yeah, atrial fibrillation, heart disease, a lot of stuff going on. So if you're interested, either message us here or call us 928-615-5667. Dr. Lindsy Nungaray. Did I get that right?
Yeah, nurse practitioner.
Nurse practitioner. She's got her own clinic here, Regener8 Wellness, and they just moved into this new place. And she's got an incredible story of why she started. She was actually started as an MA, a medical assistant. So for all you MAs and CNAs watching, if you work hard enough, you can become an NP. And we're going to get into some of the reasons why she did that. We're going to get into some of the business behind working for yourself, because there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. But there's also what I think most people don't know is the responsibility that comes with that, which people kind of take for granted when they're looking from outside.
That's
within.
right.
And we're going to get into a whole bunch more, and everybody needs to go connect with her. Her Instagram is underneath this video and in the show notes, and we'll tag her on Instagram as well.
Thank you. So I'm Lindsy Nungaray, and I am a board-certified family nurse practitioner, owner of Regener8 Medical Clinic. And so we've been open for a couple of years, so it's just an honor, and thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I think if we start with why you started this, what the problems you've seen, and then work your way backwards to starting out as an MA, maybe. Because like you don't just wake up randomly and say, hey, I want to start a clinic.
Right.
Like
No.
there's you had to have experienced some things that made you want to do that.
Right. So some were really good experiences. I mean, I did several rotations as part of my master's program, and once I got into the clinical part, I was having second thoughts of whether or not this is what I wanted to do. And it wasn't based off of patient care whatsoever. It was based off of the limited time that I had with patients. And I just felt like so much medication. I know that meds have their place, but not for every single patient. There's a way, and I felt like I didn't connect with that. And so I was already struggling. So that was already in the back of my mind, where, for example, if I would be at one clinical rotation, I see how one provider practices their regimens, and I would cringe a little bit because that's not what I would give. Now, then I thought that maybe it's because I'm still just a student. I'm not really ready for this yet. And so I would second guess myself. But then when I got into my first actual job, I seen the pace. It was great. Butterfly and rainbows at first. But then once you're out on your own, after the training's done, you're kind of just like, okay, now there's this requirement that you have to meet with a certain amount of patients. And, you know, you have your hospital follow-ups that get so much time. You have your follow-up visits, just an acute care visit that, you know, narrows in that time that you get with the patient. And then you have like your quick visits, your 15 minutes. And so by the time they're done with the MA, by the time I get them, what do I have? I always say 7 minutes, like literally with my patient. And, you know, patients, they don't get to see you. Their providers are hard to reach these days. There's so much of a waiting list when you're trying to establish with primary care. And so when they get that opportunity, I don't think it's their fault. I just think that they're like, oh, and this. And then my personality doesn't do good with that because I am I'm a people pleaser, and I want to make sure that everyone's happy after they've seen me and all of that. And so that's where I started to feel kind of like, oh man, this is not.
But there's a need for that, because the reason that system exists is because you have the payers, then they have very stringent guidelines, and then you have, like in a town like this one, you have large health systems that basically control everything. And so they're putting downward pricing pressure on the providers,
Right.
who then have to do extra things like, well, let's start asking for this because we get a bonus if we start asking people if they smoke.
That's
Or
right.
like, and that wastes 5 minutes when you only have 7. So by the time, if they ever get audited, they're going to see like, how did you spend 5 minutes doing this and another 5 on this when you only saw them for 7 minutes?
Yeah.
People get in trouble, they get stressed out. So you saw that early on, and you said, this is just not right for me.
Right.
But what makes the economics of it work? Because like, to be able to start your own clinic where you don't have to listen to administrators and what they tell you.
Honestly, after I went through that experience, I asked myself like the same question, and I was like, how am I, little Lindsay, like, how am I going to do this? I don't come from a strong financial background. I don't have a business or a degree in business. That doesn't apply to me. I'm just a nurse. I'm just a girl. I'm just a nurse practitioner, right? So I really had to like dig deep and kind of do my homework. And I figured out that there is like a fee for service cash pay model. And I also learned about FSA and HSA, how patients are allowed to utilize that and get care where they would desire to go, and perhaps be interested in a more inclusive care where they're getting more of that time, because that was the main complaint that I got. You could see it in the patient's face. They were not satisfied many of the times. They wanted more. They had more questions, and I didn't like that. I have really great patient relationships with my patients, and I always had. That's since nursing, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't look away. So a lot of the times I was working extra, and I'll give them a call. And now I'm not even getting paid for this at this point, because I'm working over hours and calling them back. And, oh, by the way, how did that medication work? Just because I felt unsure, because I was so rushed, and I'm layering. If the person's on diabetic medication, 3 medications, here we are, here's number 4. Let's see if this changes anything. Then you worry about the sugar dropping, and you just worry. So I took that home with me a lot of the times. And so it was very difficult.
So can anyone see you if they wanted?
Yeah.
Let's say they're watching, hey, I don't like my doctor. You seem nice and a little bit different. Can they just come?
Yes, absolutely. So here I run all my own labs just because they're more comprehensive. And what I mean by that is that, obviously, back to insurance. Insurance is only going to cover so many labs, right?
Yeah.
And everything is going to be tied into a code. They're going to want a billing code, and that's how things get covered. And so
they want a reason for everything.
Yeah, a reason, and there's your diagnosis, and so you got to get creative.
We have insurance too, and like, it's almost no point in using insurance sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, might as well just pay cash.
It's crazy because the first year, we were still getting the feel for things, and our prices, we were very, very competitive, I would say. And I just wanted to get the feel. I think when we first started, our initial labs with a consultation was $199, and that was with a whole panel. Then I hear patients that they're getting billed from the hospital and different, places where they're going, and it was like, I just got a bill for $500, and that was with my insurance, and
for God
they
knows
didn't
what.
cover this. And I was like, oh my gosh. Then I knew that we were on to something. That's when I knew that this could work, right?
So we have to, in our studies, we pay for all the patient's procedures, right? So check this out.
Wow.
We had this study, a weight loss study, and when something happened, like a patient complains of a GI issue that's not going away, the protocol says we have to do a CT scan of the abdomen. So we sent them to a place, I'm not going to say where.
Yeah.
And they know we're cash pay, right? But they messed up because the patient showed up at the front desk, and they ran it through their insurance.
Oh my gosh.
And then the patient showed me the bill, and it was like thousands different than what they're charging us for the same scan.
That's right.
So I went there and I told them, hey, this is a cash paying patient. They shouldn't be getting billed. But the difference is like thousands. Like, if you pay cash, it's couple hundred versus a couple thousand they're billing from the insurance. And this is happening at scale. People don't even know. People don't even care.
Yeah. So now I've had a ton of exposure with that. MRIs. I mean, I can order all of that. I'm still a board certified family nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
I still can see pretty much all ages. Here, how I run it, I try to stay like 13 and over pretty much. Because I work on underlying issues. So a lot of the times it's like gut, nutrition, things like
Mm.
that. So I'm really working with the parent at that point because the parent needs to then, enforce those things at home and help that child. So I'm not really seeing the child alone. It's like a relationship
Yeah.
with between the two. But I mean, I still can order those tests and it's way, way cheaper for them as a cash pay.
Cash.
And I educate them like you do have the opportunity to pay cash pay. Make sure you tell them you do not want it going through the insurance. And so, you know, I've saved a lot of headaches for patients, and they need these things. And so same thing with labs. I mean, now I can run like really extensive labs like diagnostic tests to check what's inside your microbiome. And the patients will say, well, they did a stool test. I went to GI. They did this, they did that. And they had upper endoscopy. They had a colonoscopy. Everything came back good. I don't know what's wrong. And then I run a GI map, but it's DNA. So it matches up with the DNA of actually what's going on at that moment. So if it comes back with H. pylori, they have H. pylori right now. If it comes back with E. coli, they have that infection right now. It also shows what antibiotics that they can have and tolerate and what they can't have. And like in traditional conventional medicine, it's like they try it. If it doesn't work, then, they'll possibly send a culture. By that time, patient is already resistant and now here they are on another antibiotic. So it's just a chain of events that happen that are just unneeded. So I'm trying to stop
insurance
that.
At all here?
No, not, and I really don't plan to. I've went back and forth, with Carlos, and we don't want the headache. I don't want to be micromanaged. I don't want to be that. You got your 99213, 99214. I don't want the codes. I don't want to be limited. I want to spend time with my patients. If my patient's having a hard day, I want to take that extra time to embrace it with them, because I know that the results as far as like gut healing, hormones, all of that, it matters how stressed we are. And if we're dealing with depression or anxiety, all of those things matter so much. And the body is it's just interrelated. It's so connected. So when one thing's off, I know already if a patient gets bad news and they have like a grief, I already know we're going backwards a little bit. And so now we have to refocus. And that's even with our, I'm calling it our fat reduction program, because before we talked about it more as weight loss. But what I'm noticing is that weight loss is not like linear. Like that's not how the progress is. You have to make sure that you're aware of like skeletal muscle mass and body fat. So that way we're improving body fat percentage. So ultimately improving overall body composition, so that we can make sure that disease prevention exists. So for diabetes, the skeletal muscle mass, it's so important, right? So we focus on those things. So it's really fat reduction program is what we're really trying to.
And you have the body comp here.
Yeah, an in-body scan, and that's been really good. There's some fancy ones out there, but in-body served us really well. It's very simple.
Okay.
It shows us your body weight. It shows your skeletal muscle mass, your BMI. It shows body fat percentage in terms of a percentage, and then also pounds on pounds. And then it also shows your BMR, which is what helps me create amazing plans for as far as like meal plans go.
And that's
proper macros.
I think that's the beautiful thing about being able to do it as you see fit as the clinician, as opposed to letting some bureaucrats tell you how to treat your patients, which is in the traditional private practice, or in the health systems.
Right.
That's
and
how it is.
I think that's what that freedom and peace, it's worth all of the struggle of what goes behind, I would say, running a small business or being an entrepreneur, all of those things. It's not going to be just that easy. There's some hard work.
When you did your time at these, I'm making it sound like jail, but when you worked at these clinics, right? And you started seeing the problems and the pain points, and you've seen other NPs do it on their own too. Like there's a few in town that have done similar, I think.
Right.
Maybe not as good as you, because you have podcasts and everything. Like your marketing's pretty good.
Thanks.
But
yeah, I
did
can
you
thank
just
my sister-in-law, actually, Victoria. She's
Ah,
been like at the start of everything. So she's really, really helped us with that.
yeah,
It's been awesome.
every
Thank you.
business needs someone like that.
Yeah.
Did you take the leap of faith and just say, I don't know if there's like a market here for it,
I did.
or I know there is, I just don't know how many.
So actually, it's funny because after I was at my last job as a nurse practitioner, I had this one provider. He was a male. He'll know who he is, but he was amazing. And he planted a little seed in me because he was willing to take a step outside the box than your traditional medicine, conventional medicine
Wait, do
providers.
I know this guy?
You know him.
Okay, yeah, I know who this is.
Yeah. So he actually was like believing in that. And I was like, you know what? Here's this cool guy that has this big, huge practice. He's a big golf guy,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was like willing to take the risk and actually open his mind to something called testosterone pellet therapy. And so I didn't get to see him do it a lot. I was always with my own patient load. But he planted that seed, and I was very curious on why patients were like, I'm feeling great, and they would come out with a smile. And so really my curiosity started there as far as like what I wanted to do. I already know that wasn't my place. I already knew that wasn't part of my calling. That wasn't where I was going to be for the long run, but I got good experience from there. I seen what I didn't want. I learned from patients. I got really good exposure there. It was a pretty high traffic area there. And so it helped build me to where I needed to go. But after that, I felt a little defeated. And, my husband and I were like, we didn't have like that connection. We forgot who we were because we were running another business that we had. Then I was in my grad program. Then I was doing my first year as a nurse practitioner, and it was killing me because my heart wasn't in it at that time.
Were
For
you
that
new
type
to
of
Yuma, or you
no, we
always...
had been here.
Okay.
So we just were like, you know what? We need a change. So we sold our house and we left. We left to San Diego. And
Wow.
it was for a purpose. And I didn't know why. I was like, we're crazy. Why we left to Carlsbad. So we left there and we all agreed, and we were living our best lives, spending all of our money. And we were living the dream for a little bit. It was fun, but we reconnected and really were able to reconnect like very deeply in our marriage, but also like, what do we want in our lives? Like, what kind of life do we want? Here, I'm a nurse practitioner. Like, what are we going to do? I went through 8 years of schooling
Yeah.
combined with everything. And I was just like, not clear on what I really wanted to do. And so we just started visiting places over there, and like, we seen like this new way of wellness. And I just started
Like
to
medical
become
spa? Or
not med spa.
That's different,
No,
right?
yeah, it's much different. But it was more like wellness. Like
Mm.
I even seen like a couple functional medicine, naturopathic medicine. And I was like, I looked into the naturopathic and I'm like, I am not going to school again. Like, I'm done with that, right? For a while. So that was off. But we just explored, and then we started to get really into like the gym and just seeing like people live their life there. It's very like people are outdoors, and I just started to get the itch for like wanting to enjoy my life in that way. Like, what else can it be? But then I started getting sick. And so I started searching for answers for myself. And I found out that I had hypothyroidism. And then I went and got my hormones checked as well. And so that's where it all started. I had cyclic migraines really, really bad. So, migraines
Mm.
surrounding my menstrual cycles, it could be before, after, during, and they were debilitating. Like, I would have to be like, see you guys later. Like, I'm gonna stay in. I would be just in a dark room for hours. Sometimes they would last like 72 hours. And I was missing out on so much. I didn't feel good. I was gaining weight. It was just horrible. So I actually started investigating on who does these hormones, and I wanted to be an expert. I always thought, like, if I'm not going to be an expert at what I do, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it just because. I don't want to be just one
Specifically
of
the pellets,
somebody.
or just in general you were searching?
This was at the time, it was more so pellets of what I was intrigued by. Yeah, because I liked the.
And you offer that here?
Yes. Yeah. So we do bioidentical pellet therapy here. We do male, female. We do creams, injections, things like that. But those things have its place. And so each method is going to be for a certain type of patient. And we do labs just to determine your candidacy and go from there. Really.
So that planted the seed, but then you moved back here.
Yes. So I was like, we
this,
cannot. Or? Yes, because you know how expensive it is in Cali.
Yeah.
Cali's home for me. I was born in Hemet, California.
Yeah, we know
in Riverside County. So
we have a godmother in Temecula.
Oh yeah, so that's like all my area, and I miss it. It's different, but I knew that it was going to be that much harder. First off, because I can't practice independently there. I need a collaborating physician there. So that was going to take a pretty penny to get that all off the ground. I already knew at that point, though, that I didn't want to work for anybody ever. I wanted to work for my patients, and that was it. I didn't want to report to anyone. I didn't want someone to
why? Because of what you saw, and that you don't want to be dictated how you need to.
Right. Insurance was a big thing because of how tight the guidelines are. The volume and the time was a big thing. I need to have time, but also just to be honest, the treatment plans, my treatment plan. So, you know, whatever treatment plan that I give my patient, I have to believe in it. If you don't believe in whatever that you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it. Yeah. Is basically a big thing that I always live by. It's fake and it's not, you're not being authentic, you know. That's why for like trends, I'm not really big on trends. I really like to set the pace, and I know that right now, you know, photography, you know, within your marketing, making sure that you're, you know, doing all of that stuff. That was like as trending as I got, and that was like out of my comfort zone and doing all these marketing shoots and everything like that. But I was instructed that that was good for business, so I started to do that. But as far as like the treatment plans go here, like, you know, semaglutide, Ozempic, all of that stuff, tirzepatide, it's trending. There, it was very much trending, right? And I wanted to be different. So even that part is different about me. I'm not going to give away my sauce, but I will say that there's more than one way to use these medications. They have their place. They're amazing. I've seen so many amazing transformations, and everyone thinks always on the outside. Yes, that's like the cherry on top, I would say. But I'm talking about like in the inside, like lab data. You know, I see a patient and then we repeat labs at 12 weeks. It's like, is this the same patient? It's crazy what these medications can do with the right supplement, with the right, under the right person, under the right monitoring. It's just simply amazing. And I don't really see much side effects. And again, it's going to come down to the way that I dose. So when they said that they were going to take away the compounding option for some of these medications, you hit the panic button just a little bit, because it's like, wait a minute, I can't imagine just here's a Monjaro, here's a pen, here's a Zempic pen, and you do this at home. And then where's the accountability? Where's all the other stuff that really is doing the bulk of the work? That's just a tool. You know, these medications were meant to be used as a tool, not to be the main show. Like that's not correct in my opinion. And I think that's where a lot of practices or wellness, med spas, whatever we're dealing with, that's where they're going wrong. These are patients, they're individuals. They like look different. They have other, their own, or letting them just not having that accountability. That's huge. I think that's like.
Well, you see a lot of people starting and then stopping because they don't want to stop eating.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, can I split my dose? Or can I just, I mean, they give up. We've seen it. We do a lot of these GLP, GIP, all the new stuff now. We're doing the studies. We have patients who know, they already learned, if I have a party coming up, I can't take my dose this week. And then they learn from that, well, now I feel like having this cheat day or cheat week. I'm just going to skip my dose now too. So the drug is not even helping because they're not taking it.
Yeah, I always say the best plan is the plan that they're going to follow. And I'll stick to that because
I think that helps, like you being here to be an accountability.
You know, they'll tell me, hey, I'm going to be gone. I have couple patients, they're leaving to Europe soon. Like, they're like, we're going to be gone for 3 weeks. Okay, and what are we going to do? So in that case, there's so many things. Obviously, they're going to need their own vial to travel with. So that's on me. They just need to communicate to me. I will figure out a way so that you're not missing your dosage. You need to take it. You can enjoy yourself, and you are going to have some things that you probably wouldn't have on a regular basis when you're on your program.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not an excuse to just drop off of it for 3 weeks.
People learn fast.
It's more work for me and more work for them, really. So
yeah. So
there's a fine line to that. But the problem is there's not enough volume of providers to monitor these patients, and they're coming up with the best method that they think. They're using their own judgment, and they're not clinicians.
yeah.
That's a problem. So they're self-diagnosing. They're using ChatGPT. They're basically their own doctors.
Hims or hers, where they go online and they can get direct to home shipment. Right. But they don't have the accountability of like, hey, Lindsay's gonna be here making sure that I'm being compliant, and you'll know when they're cheating.
Yes, I will. And we always make it like a joke, but Carlos is my husband, and he helps me. He's like my right-hand man, literally.
You'll see him in the B-roll, I think, Daniel, right? Okay, we got him in the B-roll.
Yeah, so everyone's always scared, like, oh, it's their in-body day, and he'll get them on the in-body, and, he'll get a little...
Yeah.
He'll get on them. He'll definitely get on them, but for a good cause. It's because we care about the results. We care about... all things, the progress, the journey, and we're with you through that journey. We have that ability and flexibility as our own private practice, and that's so huge. So it's all worth like.
And how long have you guys been doing this?
So we're almost at our 2 years. Our 2 years
congrats.
is June 24th, I believe.
And it's been progressing like as you thought, better, worse.
It's getting a little crazy.
Too much to handle.
It's going fast right now. I would say I probably have like over 400 patients, maybe.
How do you think about growing?
I think that if we continue at this pace, I'm definitely going to need another provider by...
There's plenty of unhappy providers around. Yeah. You weren't the only one.
Yeah. So that's definitely... And we've thought about it. And I'm like, if we continue this pace, I would say like by next year... we're going to need another provider. Mind you, I know that we talked about this a little, but I want to go and talk about like what it takes to actually have a business like this and go for it, because people are like, they can't believe it when I tell them that we're a 2-man team plus my marketing girl, which she does so much for us, which really helps a lot. Like, it's
all the
such
Instagrams, because I follow the Instagram. It's a bunch of educational stuff.
Yes,
slideshows.
So I try and I try to do as much as I can. As I've been busier, it's really hard to like go on there and like educate as much as I would like to. But that's where the podcast is. So I'm gonna pick up on that soon, because I want to have longer educational opportunities for patients and listeners.
Yeah. I know it's not comparable, but one of our former guests, Jenny Nails, she does nails in our... You might follow her.
Yeah, she's done my nails before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's done like everyone's nails, I think. But she, after we did our pod, I was telling her how she should market if I were her. And then she started doing like candid conversations with the customers know they're being recorded. And I know with HIPAA you may not be able to do that, but something along those lines where you're practicing, but they see like you're also getting content out of it.
Right.
I think there's a way to do it. Like I've done it myself where I've had a patient and they're just getting me talking and not really the patient talking.
Right.
So there's like more of that kind of content I think does well. Because when she started posting that, it started doing really well.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm so like blessed because our patients are like, they're like, who do you want me to talk to? Let's do this. Like, let's go. And they're really open to sharing their journey. I have a couple that are, I would say like, she's pretty famous on TikTok, but she's she's spread so much awareness about what we do and part of her journey. And a lot of patients, they
Mhm.
really want to share because they're excited, because they're feeling better, they're getting results. And so they share quite a bit more than I expected, because when it comes to your health, it's a little personal. And so you don't
Yeah.
want to put your business
No, no, no.
all out there, right?
You'd
But
have to
they've
like
been very
be strategic
vulnerable.
about it.
And I asked them why, and their response is more so like, because they need to know about it. If it can help me, it can help them. And, it's all about like hope and giving
Yeah.
people that hope back, that, hey, you know what, just because one program failed, there's still hope. Like, we can still help you guys. So that's really important to
Was the
us.
compounding thing a problem for you guys, or how
No,
do
it
you work
hasn't
around
been, it hasn't been a problem for us. And I did a little reel on that. I thought it was back in March, I believe. I think it was like the
Yeah.
19th, 17th, one of
Well,
those
there's
days.
another clinic in town that was freaking out about it.
Yeah, it is scary because, especially, this is what we do. For me, it wasn't that scary. I'm not going to lie. Like, because I do so much more. Like, I'm more so functional medicine right now. So I'm working more on gut. We're doing like Dutch tests and all of these other specialty tests that will tell me so much. Where it concerned me is because the terzipatide, semaglutide, those things help so much, like on the neurotransmitter end, and like with
Mm-hmm.
food cravings and all of that stuff, that I do worry, because patients oftentimes need that, because the sicker the gut is, the more they're going to have those cravings. Once we tie everything together, get them on a good regimen, those cravings, they start to like disappear, right? And get less and less and less. And now they're craving healthier things. And so
Yeah.
I knew that even with the accountability that we provide and the other tools that we have, I knew we would be okay, because there's other things like berberine.
But what was
And
like the main issue with that? I don't even
it was
understand.
because the shortage was lifted. So since the shortage was lifted from our conventional pharmacies, there's no longer a need for compounding pharmacies, is what, quote unquote, it
But why
was
would the
the
provider
issue.
care? Like if it's
So then we can't order, because we do compounding pharmacies. So we don't order from our regular pharmacies here. We do compounding because we can tailor doses more precisely for
okay.
patients and things like that. And we have more flexibility with that. A lot of the times, they'll incorporate things like glycine or
Okay.
certain B vitamins and things like that. And that helps like improve.
So now you can't do that anymore.
We
Oh,
still
you still
can.
can?
So
Oh.
that was a thing, and that's what we were afraid of.
Okay.
But after everything, we still are able to, because the compounding pharmacies are not going to give up that much. I mean, they're on the ride too. So what we do is the way out is to basically explain how every patient is basically an individual, and this patient could possibly get more side effects from the traditional dosing of like Ozempic or Mounjaro, right? And that's our way around it. And not only that, they also combine it with other ingredients so that it is different than the commercial branding.
You can
of
custom it
Mhm.
for, and especially for a business like yours where you actually spend time with patients and you can see
Yeah.
all their data.
More is
things
not
like
better.
that.
I'll say that.
Mm.
Once we hit those higher doses, they can affect, these medications can affect your thyroid.
Yeah.
They can cause
Well, in our studies, we
pancreatitis.
run them up
Yes. So you
until
guys
they
see
can't
that.
tolerate it.
Mhm.
And then we take it down, and then we go back up, and then the second time they can't tolerate it, we go down and keep them.
Wow.
So that,
So
like in most of the studies that we do, that's how
Right.
it is. But they
So-
get it. Those are like long term, and they get it for free, and they
Right.
actually get paid. They get
Wow.
$400 a visit now. I didn't realize they were going to the ATM and getting all this cash.
Wow.
And I was asking our coordinator, why are we getting so much cash? There's only like 2 patients this week. And she's like, oh, yeah, they increased it. Now they used to get 150. Now they get 400 a visit for one study, one of our studies.
Right. That's so interesting. I mean, yes. And I feel like with that, I mean, it's not like we're up against the conventional pharmacies. Like,
Yeah.
they all have their place. I mean, even like with providers, like your PCP, they're very important.
Yeah.
If, just like me, I had a health scare at the beginning of the year, and it was like really scary. They flew me out and, see neurology up in Phoenix. And it's like, no, it's not one or the other. It's a team. It's like
Combined.
everyone's important. Conventional medicine, your primaries, our specialty medicine, acute care, they're amazing at acute care. I just feel like where they're missing the mark is in preventative care and in chronic
Okay.
care. That's where I see a lot of issues if they're not being addressed. Um, and it's sad because that's avoided. So I just why I'm in this portion of medicine is because it's purposeful for me. This is where I felt like I can reach more people and change more lives. And that's why I do more functional medicine and integrative health, like because I'm passionate about it, I believe in it. And so that's where it really I
And you
draw the
started
line
as
there.
a MA. Can you explain just a little bit of
Oh,
that
yeah.
journey?
So I started as a medical assistant. I was super young when I was a pregnant teen. So that was very scary. I was 16 and I had my daughter. And I always say like God sent her to save my life because I grew up in a pretty like rough area and he used her to like wake me up. So although it wasn't ideal having her very young, it was a struggle, but I knew I had to do something. So I believe 18 I started medical assistant because I seen a billboard and it was like, you know, start your career and
Mm-hmm.
it attracted me. I was like, okay, let me do this. And so I went and everything went through and I loved it so much. And I worked like oncology, I worked orthopedics,
Over there in
in
California.
California. Yeah. And then at the end of my MA career, I worked for IHSS. So I did a lot of community nursing. I was getting more like case management cases, like for diabetic case management. And so it was always just growing like this passion. And I would always see like our diabetics when they would like lose their eyesight and lose limbs. And I would be like, why? Like, why are they so non compliant? What is going on here? And I never understood it as good as I do now. I wish I would have known what I've known now. Like, I could have made a better difference out there, but it was hard to see. And then, after that, I became an LPN. So I did a bridge program. I was LPN. And then we picked up our family and we moved all the way to Florida to do a bridge LPN to RN associate transition program there. So it was like a 2-year program combined into like 15 months. I
Mm-hmm.
could afford it. I actually got granted a scholarship from just telling my story and expressing my interest in wanting to further my education. You know, schools out there, especially if they're like private, they're really expensive.
Yeah.
So I could never make the switch from LBN or LPN to RN. It was just such a struggle. So my husband sold his business that he had and we moved to Florida. And I did my nursing over there, got my associates, passed the HESI exit, and then we hightailed it here because his mom was here. So we
Mm.
came here and I actually did a contract at the hospital here and I was in LDRP. I really felt like that was it for me and quickly learned like it was fun, but I wanted to do more. I really miss seeing all ages. Um, wheels were always turning. I was like, what do I want to do? And then after my associates, once I got used to like the 312s, I started right back into my bachelor's online and then graduated, walked in Cali, and then went straight into the University of Phoenix for my master's. And there was a lot that happened in that time in my life. It was very challenging. We had another business. It was called Evolution Strength because I coach Olympic weightlifting.
Mm.
So I was at one time working the
Thought I
prison.
saw that on the
Yeah,
name.
working the prison, doing evolution, and then doing my grad program. It was crazy, but it built character, and it was like the journey was pretty smooth but chaotic. I don't know. It was pretty crazy, but we did it, and then like I said, we moved a couple times. Like we didn't know if Yuma was like for us the first time we moved because my grandma got cancer, and so she helped really raise me. She was a big part of my life, and I wanted to be closer to her. So I didn't give Yuma a chance when we first
Mm.
came, like in that 2016, 2017 period, 2018. And I was just like, I don't want to be here. I was like miserable. I was just working and getting my experience. And then I moved to Cali and I started working at Kaiser.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with
Yeah,
Kaiser?
we used to go there.
Yeah, so they're big on preventative care. Like here, you sometimes no prenatal care just because we're so close to the border and you don't know what you're going to get. It's high risk patients.
Yeah.
Like it really helped me, it helped prepare myself for Kaiser was like cakewalk. It really was. So then I seen what real prevention looks like and I was like, wow, it's so smooth here. You know, it's like everybody's like compliant. They had all their visits. They're here and safe deliveries. Everything's great, you know, and I didn't get a lot of like emergency situations that I seen here. It was so different. The culture was different. It was just so different, you know, and, but I was commuting from Riverside or Hemet all the way to Orange County.
Oh, the Anaheim Hills one?
Yeah, it was the Irvine.
Oh, the Irvine one,
Mhm.
yeah.
It was the
We've
Irvine.
been there a few times.
Yeah, it's a nice place.
Yeah.
It was cool, and I had a lot of fun there. But that wasn't for me.
Well, you learned that system too, so you learn different health systems,
right?
in order to help you make Regener8.
Yeah, you see the importance of everything and how everything has like its place.
Yeah.
So,
The thing I didn't like about Kaiser is you know, you want something, you're not feeling well, they tell you to eat your vegetables basically instead of giving you pills.
so true.
Yeah.
You know, the way that they make us eat too. Back then, I was not on my health journey. Like I didn't really. I was like, whatever. I was just trying to survive. You know, I would skip meals, and you go to the kitchen, and there's like broccoli and cod.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god.
Kaiser's good, but
it was, you know, I
think
get
patients need to both.
I get it now, but
I think what you're
different.
doing here is you're integrating both
Yeah.
systems into one, which is probably what most people need. Most people are afraid they can't afford doing something like this. That's the problem.
Right. And you know, that's what I was going to mention earlier. The first year we seen like, okay, the HSA, FSA, those were coming in pretty good. People were utilizing that. And then we had some patients that were like super disappointed because they opt out of that. So they were like, you know what? Next year,
health savings,
the flexible spending accounts or health saving account. So they can kind of have that flexibility to go wherever and spend that where they see fit. Right?
Well, there's like so few people that do that though.
Well, it's becoming a thing now because of hormone therapy and other therapies that are working so well for patients. And what I noticed that this year, they said this last year, they were like, next year I'm switching. And yeah, many of them, a big portion of them have switched over their model. So now they're like, and I'm like, I'm kind of torn because emergencies do happen. Things like the big C and other things happen where you really want to make sure like you have that insurance for emergencies. Right. So it's hard for me to tell them like do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel good about it, but you know, a lot of them are still younger and they're okay, but they're like, I'm just taking the risk. And then actually we've saved a lot of people even from going like into MEX. I mean, the labs are very comparative to where we're at. And I'm like, really? So it's just starting to get more pricey even over there.
Yeah.
So we try to really stay on the competitive side. I'm at a point right now, though, to be honest, it's like I just want to remember quality. And so not quantity. And it's hard because I know there's a lot of patients that need a lot of help. And I don't want to, I'm still taking new patients. But I thought about like slowing it down as far as the new patients go and just really cater to my current patients because they come back. They're
the
part
retention
of us.
is big, no?
It is.
Yeah, we had a family member who come to see you. That's how I first knew about you.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Although I think I was following for some reason too before that.
I was following you because I seen the whole podcast and I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, that's interesting. Then I recognized Daniel and then I was like, this is cool.
Everybody in Yuma knows this guy.
Yeah, he actually set up our first business account for our other business that we had.
Yeah.
So
that's I mean, it's an amazing story how you came from MA to owning your own clinic as an NP. And I think Yuma does need more of that. I know there's a few, but really it's just establishing that client base, getting the word out because most people feel they can't afford going private.
You'd be surprised. I mean, the main thing my philosophy is like root cause medicine. So I really want to know, it's not just about like the symptoms. Yes, those are very important, but we need the lab data as well, and other diagnostic tools, like the specialty tests, like the GI map, Dutch test. I mean, there's mold tests, toxicity tests. There's so many different things that are going on within patients that they don't even realize. And so I only realize now, after running so many tests, like, wow, who knew? I would have never thought that in my regular like job
Hmm.
at my just primary care. I would have never thought to think that way. But with functional medicine, it's like you're trying to connect all the dots. So even the questions that we ask, they're pretty like in depth. And so that all helps me to paint a really good picture of what's going on inside. The data kind of wraps everything up. Data is super important. Patient symptoms, what the patient is telling you, that's super important. But I mean, with just some labs and a really extensive consultation, you can learn so much. And so we start at 279. You can get your hormone labs checked, and if you are thinking about, fat reduction and you really want to go on a journey, that's where it starts. That covers your 1 hour consultation and all of the labs. If you need to get a little more extensive, which is what I recommend, I'm going to get some extra markers, and so you're still going to get that 1 hour with me, and you're going to learn. And so at minimum, you can learn about your health, see where you're at, see what's hindering or could possibly be a danger to you or lead to things like diabetes. Are you insulin
Hmm.
resistant? What is going on in your body? Cardiac profile, like how are you looking on the inside? If you do it young, then you have your baseline. Many people don't even check their testosterone until they start feeling symptoms
Hmm.
well into their 40s. And it's like, that's all wrong. At 21, you should be checking your hormones, because from the data that I've seen, if you're 21 years old, you have plenty of muscle mass, you're not having any issues with like putting on muscle mass and how you're feeling and everything like that. If your baseline is 500, 600, in 10 years, we wouldn't want you to be at 8 or 900. Your baseline at 21 was only 500. If you were at 500, 501, it's like, wow, that's pretty darn good because you maintain that over the years. So I always advise labs, just like as a general foundational labs at even 21.
Yeah, even the new administration, with not to get into politics, but
Yeah,
they're pushing for the whole "Make America Healthy Again."
right,
So I think your type of practice is conducive to that, and
right,
hopefully they bring in some regulations that makes it easier for you guys to do
right,
business. But
right. And for me, I think what's helped me finally, because I've always struggled with my weight like for years. I never could like get it off, keep it off. I've always had a pretty stressful life, I would say. And I've always struggled with like some anxiety here and there. But the thing is like I never found that perfect plan. I always found periods of it where I would keep my body weight nice and lean, but it'd come back up. And so now I can connect those dots. But most recently, like about last 7 weeks, I'm down like 13 pounds, right? And so that doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm doing it more so with like nutrition now. And so what I'm learning is that nutrition is so important, and we can heal like our bodies with just nutrition. And that's just like my functional medicine background, biochemistry, carbs, protein, fats, we have to know what those things are. Um, how they can hinder us, and like pick our battles of when we're going to eat those things and what quality we're going to eat those, what quality of foods that we're going to eat. All of that matters. It's so important. So
yeah,
we really just try to dig more into that. And I think